ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only WETOODEEP. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seat. This is Slapping Me, yes, Slapping Me.
What is up, y'all? It's your boy WETOODEEP, and we are back with another episode of the Slapping Me community show. And I know we're a little late. We're a little bit late this week, and I know I said last week we were contemplating on if there would be a show, and because Monday was the Patriots playing the Giants, and I was watching that, wouldn't have time to record, and then I decided we're doing a show Friday, right? And so, we got some wrestling things to talk about. We'll talk about WarGames. We'll talk about, there's a theory that I'm seeing going on as we approach John Cena's final match. There's a theory that I see going on that I want to talk about. We'll talk about TNA's new TV deal and what I think about it. You know, I mentioned it as sort of like a rumor that it could happen, but it's official now, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll end the wrestling segment by discussing NXT Deadline on Saturday, tomorrow, and what I think about it. We'll discuss some football news again. We'll talk about my Patriots. We'll go to Patriot Corner. We'll talk about that. I typically don't talk about college football. We're going to talk about college football in this episode, because it's what we would call Selection Sunday. If this was March Madness, this would be Selection Sunday. Who gets into the college football playoff? There's a lot of debate going on right now, and I may even extend starting next season to talking about college football as well, starting next year. The thing with college football, to be honest, we'll preface this, is that I don't necessarily care about a lot of the recruiting conversation. Like a lot of college football podcasts, they'll talk about recruiting, or they'll talk about, different, a lot of the conversations come around NIL and stuff like that. And I don't have any interest in discussing that stuff. Plus, there's like 124 teams in Division I college football, and so there's a lot of football to watch. But I might make an effort starting next season to, if there's something to talk about them. But I do want to discuss the college football playoff. It is conference championship week. There's some conversation going on about who should make the playoff. I have a solution. It's the solution I've had for like the last 4 seasons that I think would fix every single issue, every single discussion that we ever have about the college football playoff. It would silence if people would just listen to my idea. And so we'll discuss that. And then, as always, we got some questions here from the Discord, which leads me to say, if you are a listener, right, and you haven't joined the Discord, I know Discord gets a bad rap sometimes. The server is not one of those, right? It doesn't have to be well moderated because the conversation stays within the lines of what it needs to be about, right? Whenever the server did get out of hand, I took care of it, right? And so we're just here to have a good time, chill out, talk about the podcast, talk about life as things happen, talk about wrestling as things happen, and a place to have community, right? So, with that, before we jump into all of that, though, I do want to say, as all of the Spotify raps, and I'm an Apple Music user, so Apple Music Replay, as all of that starts to come out at the beginning of December, right? We not only do they put those out for listeners, right? I'm sure you could go to Spotify, and part of your rap will be your number one podcast is blank, right? And if I'm your number one podcast, on your Spotify rap, thank you. Give me 1 second here. Sorry. Getting over a head cold, and that's kind of gross. But anyway, you didn't need to hear it. So anyway, as I was saying, as Spotify raps are coming out, Spotify, I know for certain, does one for their creators. I don't know about Apple yet, which is where most of my listens come from, I believe. But I went to Spotify to get my creator wrapped, right? And in 2025 on Spotify, we had 110% total audience growth on Spotify, and 37% growth in followers. Which, to me, that's cool, right? I'm not a big data person, like I said, when I sort of started rebranding and everything. Is I'm not in this for numbers, but it's cool to see that things are going up. I want to shout out the top 5 countries. Of course, the United States is going to be number 1. But number 2, Australia. Number 3, Canada. The Philippines at 4, which is kind of odd. Didn't think that would happen. And the biggest surprise for me is that my 5th biggest country in listeners is Egypt. That's a surprise to me, but I appreciate it. And then the one thing I do have a concern with, they tell me like your listeners' favorite or your listeners' top artist this year was blank, and mine was Drake. Right now, a lot of people are getting Taylor Swift because she released a new album, and the people are just listening to it. Right, Drake. I got some concerns. We're Team Kendrick on this side. We're Team Kendrick over here, bruh. Who's listening to Drake? Nah, I'm kidding. Let's get into the business that you guys came to listen to. So we'll start with. We'll start with WarGames, and I have actually designated a brand new name for WarGames. And this is BoreGames. That show was 100% just safe, soft, vanilla. I don't want to say boring because there was some interesting parts of it. But I don't know what happened in the last 18 months or so with Triple H's booking, where he went from throwing every surprise in the world imaginable at the wall to over this year, if the surprise didn't really involve John Cena. And part of me believes that a lot of the cookie cutter, soft, vanilla booking that we've had this year is Triple H's way of not trying to overrun John Cena's final year because he wants to make John Cena's final year feel like it's the most important thing. The problem with that is that this final run has been absolutely hot garbage, bro. And your product is suffering with it. We'll talk about more about that when it comes to the end of the year show, because that is going to be something that me, James, and Cody do discuss, is our thoughts on John Cena's run. But WarGames was absolutely boring. Like vanilla, soft. I don't like to use the word predictable because I think predictability in wrestling is okay. I think if the show does what it's supposed to do, you should figure out what's going on. And I think being predictable is fine. You know, that's kind of the point in writing TV is, in my opinion, is that as a writer, I want you to know where I'm going. And then follow me there and stay with me as I get you there. That's literally the job of a director. Is, okay, I know where... Let me give an example. Just as a shameless plug, I don't know if you guys remember, but I have a self-authored book on Amazon. Look, it's not the greatest thing. The formatting of it sucks. And there's no page numbers on the actual pages. That's just a me thing. I forgot to put page numbers on the Word document before I submitted it. But hey, it is what it is. The point that I'm saying is in this story, though, that I wrote, not the most grandiose story, right? Before I publish it, I sent it to a couple people who I know like to read and who would have the time to at least give me some feedback, right? And one of the girls who I sent it to, she came back to me and was like, hey, I don't hate this, but the story was mad predictable. And I said, well, that's the point that I was kind of going to, right? Because, so this is sort of like a Western sort of love story that I wrote, right? And it's sort of like if Hallmark made a movie set in the West that wasn't a Christmas movie, right? But if you ever watch Christmas movies on Hallmark, they're all the same plot. They're all the same movie, essentially. It's just different places, different people, and different circumstances. And a lot of times those Hallmark movies are just plug and play. Like I can imagine, sitting here in the director's office planning the next movie. They're like, all right, so they're playing the game Ad Libs. Just give me a place, give me a job, give me a person's first name, right? And they're playing Ad Libs, and here's the new story. But it's the same theme from movie to movie, right? And that's what essentially this little book that I wrote was well, here's a theme of how a lot of these sort of romance fiction novels go. I want to run across that line, right? And so when I got the feedback, I knew where this was going, but I was still enthralled enough to read it. To me, I accomplished the job I set out to do. Right? And so, to me, that's how... So, like, being predictable isn't a bad thing. The problem is the task at hand is to allow that predictability to be interesting enough that once I figure out the show, I continue to watch. Once I figure out the plot twist or the result, it's still interesting enough to watch. And so what I would call this show right here, WarGames, the last PLE of the year for WWE, is indicative of the entire 2025 booking. soft, vanilla, lazy, boring. This has been my theme all year. Pro wrestling in 2025 is boring. And then you add on top of it that you're making people get a completely different app and pay $30 a month. I'm willing to bet 70 to 75, 80% of the people who watched WarGames paid $30 for the month, and the only event they watched on ESPN's standalone app was WarGames. I'm willing to bet it. Right? And so you're essentially making people pay $30 a month now for pay-per-views. Right? And so, or PLEs as we want to call them, right? The only interesting thing in this show that drew some interest of me of what that was perfectly done was Liv Morgan's return. Right? Liv Morgan's back. And I know I've done a lot of hating over the years on Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan is probably the best pro wrestler in women's wrestling from a character perspective, right? Right? Like if you were to ask me to name a woman wrestler, right? There are names that come to mind. Liv Morgan's one of the first ones, right? Like she went from being an absolute nobody in NXT, like literally did nothing in NXT, right? To being probably the most interesting character on television, right? Now, does she have a cult following that pushes, right? Absolutely. But her disappearing for a while, I think actually helped her. It took her out of the scene for a while. And this is what I was talking about earlier this year about Rhea Ripley. Just let her disappear for 6 months. Like if they would have let Rhea disappear while Stephanie Vaquer was building this title run, which I don't know if it's good or not because I don't watch the program all that often. But if they would have let Rhea disappear, right, and then come back at Rumble, you know, if she would have disappeared around SummerSlam, right, she loses a match at SummerSlam. It was like it was a triple threat, right? Because they've run that triple threat like 4 times this year, it feels like. If she would have lost that, didn't get the title, and then disappeared. Now, obviously, she would have had to do Perth in October. But even still then, if you let her go in and do Perth, and then she disappears after Perth, you know, 2 months ago, and comes back at the Rumble at the end of January, even a 3-month break, where she's like a surprise entrance. 3 months off where people are like, well, where's Rhea? And then Rhea comes back. It reinvigorates the interest in Rhea. There are a lot of people who are over Rhea Ripley. Just being honest, right? And so, I being one of them. And so, Liv returning was sort of fresh. It was interesting. It looks like she's costing Dom because everyone assumed when she came back, she would go straight after Dom and Raquel and Roxanne. Looks like she's joined them, right? And it was all a play for her to sort of do a callback to the turn. Feeds into this theory that I'm about to mention, right? But overall, WarGames was not interesting outside of that, right? The 2 WarGames matches themselves are completely useless, right? Just completely useless, right? And this is why I mentioned a week or 2 ago that Tony Khan running Blood and Guts 2 weeks before WarGames was smart business. Tony Khan figured something out, right? Because there's going to be a recency bias, and when you don't even use the cage in war games, when you don't use the cage in the weapons in the surrounding places to at least draw a little bit of blood in either of the matches. The cage means nothing. The match means nothing. The stipulation means nothing. This is why, for years now, and I keep getting critique about it, that the reason you continue to do war games is because it automatically adds a stipulation to the way Triple H books, where he books in he books sort of the super friends or the superheroes versus the bad guys, and they're all connected throughout the year from Mania to War Games, and it's first off, it's lazy writing because he can't figure out any other way to do it. It's just lazy and boring. But my argument is, well, just get rid of the stipulation. War Games should be a stipulation where the feud requires it should be a blood feud at that point. Neither of the feuds in either the women's or the men's were large enough to require war games. Right? And then you have the women's. The women's was the better one, in my opinion. And you have EO do the same trash can off the top of the cell cage thing. If you do that every year, soon it's not going to be interesting. Right? It was cool the first time because it was something we've never seen before. But when you spam that move, and every year she's in war games just so she could jump off the top of the cage, the structure, in a trash can, it sort of becomes like the Kofi Kingston Royal Rumble spot where, okay, we expected, but it's not that interesting anymore. You sort of run out of different ways to make it interesting, right? So I just think bring back 5-on-5 Survivor Series. Honestly, let Survivor Series, and this is why we need to pit Raw and SmackDown against each other, where the GMs are running their own shows. You Survivor Series, so you do a draft at the beginning of every year, and Survivor Series is the winner. The winning brand gets the first pick, and the sole survivor is automatically safe to his brand. Right? He's protected. He wins immunity from being drafted to the other show. Right? So then imagine you don't really need a story at that point. Right? That is your built-in stipulation. Now you can just put in 5 randos on each team who have zero to do with anything. They're just Team Raw. They're just Team SmackDown, right? And they come out, they wrestle. The story, for all intents and purposes, is we want our brand to have the first overall pick. I want to be the sole survivor. Or say it this way. The people remaining who weren't eliminated, because there's now that'll always need to be a sole survivor. To me, when I see sole survivor, like, I don't want a 5-on-5 match that ends up being a blowout where it's like where SmackDown beats everyone really quick. Those matches are better when it is who's going to be the sole survivor, right? And I think if you add that stipulation, and then instead of having it where, well, I'm the GM of this show, but I don't care what's going on, right? If you're going to do a brand split, literally do a brand split. I'm on Monday Night Raw. I hate the people in blue on Fridays. And then you can do bragging. I would bring bragging rights back at some point during the year to maybe get, bragging rights could be in the middle of the year where it determines who that could literally determine some stipulation on whoever wins bragging rights could steal a superstar from the other brand or something like that, right? Or you could do in January. Yeah. In January, you reshape the rosters by doing the main roster draft. And then you can run it where in like the middle of the year, we run a developmental draft. And all the superstars from NXT are eligible, to be drafted, and they'll do 5 rounds. And so essentially this is your call-up zone. Every year, people, because I do believe everyone should be called up. And you could have trades. You could have, we're going to release this to the free agent pool. And make the WWE universe feel. The problem with that is that, right, even I would even say get NXT involved with the drafts and with the everything, and the developmental draft is from Evolve, from all of that. And if you release a superstar, so say like NXT says, we're tired of all the drama Josh Briggs brings or whatever, right? Josh Briggs has been released from his NXT contract. He can be picked up by any other brand once he clears waivers or whatever, right? And you can make it interesting and make it sport-like if needed. The problem is the booking's too lazy for all of that, right? And they're not consistent enough, and I think there's a bubble where they live just in the world of wrestling, so they don't understand the sports idea. Where if you bring in someone like me, who understands the ideas and how to be consistent with it, I'll be honest with you, I could probably make WWE a lot more, and that's just me being delusional, I think. But anyway, let's talk about so outside of Liv, the only thing being really talked about at the end of BoreGames, is who is this masked man? And immediately I thought Theory, just from looks. But I feel like that's too easy. I've seen things that it's Tony D'Angelo. I've seen that it could be, everyone's saying Moxley. It's not John Moxley. Get that out of your head. Here's the idea. Here's what I think, though. I don't think it matters because the payoff I don't think will be all that interesting. I'm going to go with I believe it's Theory. I do believe it's Theory. I'm seeing the theory that it is Sami Zayn, and that'd be the biggest disappointment of all time if we have to deal with heel Sami Zayn just so he can get a shot at the title against CM Punk. Would be the greatest disappointment of all time. Anyway, let's move on to the other theory going on, or that I've seen that I actually kind of like. And that is Saturday night's main event on the 13th will not be John Cena's last match in WWE, that he will have one more at WrestleMania against Dwayne. Essentially, here's how how I see this playing out. Because I actually believe this theory. I do. First off, you can't retire the greatest of all time on a Saturday Night Live episode where he's going to start the show, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw that. His match will start the show, and he's going to let every other match sort of be the focus of the show, right? He's going to face whoever it's going to be Gunther. He's probably going to lose, and he's going to get out of the way. which I do appreciate about John Cena, that he's willing to put other people over in his retirement show. But it's not going to be the end. I highly doubt that it's going to be the end. Because I do believe there's going to be a Dwayne Johnson factor. To sort of finish the story, per se. And WWE loves these finish the story type things. And you're going back to Vegas. You need a big match that really sells WrestleMania. Dwayne and The Rock. Dwayne versus John Cena. The third time. Finish the trilogy. Have both of them go out on top. One of them will eat the pin, but I think you can have Cena then go out without having to eat a pin on his final match, because he's going to lose to Gunther. So I think he loses to Gunther. He's sitting in the ring. He's happy. He's shaking his head. He's emotional. We have the thank you, Cena. And then I think The Rock's music hits. The final boss music hits. And Dwayne comes out there cutting some promo about how you betrayed me, you used me to get 17, and I don't like being used, blah, 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 blah. I'll see you at WrestleMania, right? And ultimately what I think we'll get is Cena goes into the Hall of Fame. He gets one final match at Mania against Dwayne. They both retire. I think Cena and Dwayne, because Dwayne's not in the Hall of Fame yet, I think they both go in the Hall of Fame this year. I think they both finish any involvement in the ring at Mania by basically being each other's last match. And that's how I would have the theory play out, because I'm very interested in this theory because I actually like it. It immediately makes WrestleMania feel important when the rest of the card, now especially if the big rumor is Cody versus Roman 3 will happen. This with Roman trying to get the title back. The big assumption I'm going on is Sami Zayn versus CM Punk after Sami wins Rumble. That's where I'm going. Not that he's the masked man, but I think a lot of people are thinking it's going to be Braun Breaker, CM Punk. Either way, I think it'll be interesting. And then, as far as the women go, I'm not exactly certain where that's headed. I'd assume Liv would be in the title picture. I can't even remember who the SmackDown women's... Oh, it's Jade. My assumption is if Bianca can get back, it'll be Jade versus Bianca. But who knows? It'll probably be Jade, Charlotte. And then Stephanie... I think Stephanie Rhea might be the play if I'm booking too early for Mania. But the problem with Stephanie Vaquer being champion, and there is one glaring problem with her being champion on the main roster, right? It's why I believe NXT needs to stop being seen as a place where, they're here and they need to get caught up. I really believe that. I think NXT can be a beautiful spot for people to finish their development, to get caught up. But I do think that NXT is the place where you can run your indie darlings. And I'm just going to be honest with you. Stephanie Vaquer is an indie darling. She doesn't fit on the main roster, right? When you have the names and the power of the Liv Morgans, the Becky Lynches, the Charlotte Flairs, the Rhea Ripleys, right? Stephanie Vaquer doesn't fit in that. I'm just going to be like, I'm being bluntly honest. I love Stephanie Vaquer. She's my favorite women's wrestler on the planet. But I can recognize reality. She doesn't fit on the main roster. And so NXT should, like, the main roster women's scene is so full right now that I'm cautious talking about how great Kendall Gray is in Evolve. And we'll talk about her when we do the deadline prediction. But I'm cautious to even discuss her because she may not get a main roster push till 2030, 2035 at this point, with how deep the main roster is, right? And so I really wish at some point they'd stop treating NXT as, well, it's just the next stop to get to the main roster. Like, I don't think the main roster should be the goal for everyone. I think NXT is the hottest brand in pro wrestling right now. And I think it's okay to consider NXT as a goal. Like Ricky Saints, I know you want to go to and he's going to the main roster. Ricky Saints will be main roster bound by Money in the Bank, which is in September in 2026, and it's in New Orleans, and I'm 100% certain he'll be in the match. I'm not going to say he's going to win it, but I think he will be in it. Right? I don't like I think it's why they're cautious. Like, they're very cautious moving Oba up, I feel like. And they're very cautious moving Trick Williams up. Now, I think Trick, with Lash Legend being called up, Trick is on his way to being on SmackDown, with them being engaged and everything. Trick is on his way to being on SmackDown, which will be fun because you can reignite. Like, there's already a built-in feud there, right? There's already a built-in feud with Trick Williams. He steps in, he becomes big time, and Carmelo Hayes steps in his way. Like, nah, bro, don't think that you get to jump me. I'm still him. And you could run that feud back, and it will give you something to do, right? While you figure out the MF, especially going into Mania season, when the big focus is going to probably be on Roman and Cody. To not lose Trick in the mix, put him against Carmelo, give him something to do. And there you go, you have it, right? But I do like that theory that Cena's final match will actually be at Mania in 2026. Because all they've been promoting this as is Saturday Night's Main Event's my last full-time match. Right? Either way, it's going to be an emotional night next Saturday. Right? A busy night for this has been a busy 3 weeks because you've had WarGames, you now have Deadline this Saturday, then you have Cena's final event. And so I wish the ticket prices for those things, like nosebleeds in Capital One Arena in DC for this event, nosebleeds like top of the stadium, and that's a big hockey arena, right? It sits like 25,000 people. It's a big hockey arena. Nosebleeds are $350, and that's even on Game Time, which Game Time tends to be where everyone goes to sell their tickets for dirt cheap. I mean, you're still looking at $350 to go to that event, because I was looking to see if maybe I can get like a decent like upper level, not touching the ceiling, but like somewhere upper level for like $50 just to say, oh, I was at John Cena's final full-time match. Plus, there's a lot of NXT talent going to be there, and I would love to be a part of that. I'm going to NXT the day before, and I'm sitting front row next Friday. 1 week from today, I will be sitting in an NXT house show. Them prices, ridiculous. Prices are absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, that's just absolutely crazy, bro. But anyway, let's talk about TNA. Just real quick, they announced it's official. January 15th, they will be starting on AMC Network on TV, AMC TV. And if you're a wrestling fan of any kind, I don't care if you watch TNA, if you like TNA, if you hate TNA, if you are a wrestling fan, if you don't think that this is good for the business and good for TNA, at this point, you're just a hater. At this point, you're just a hater. But I want to throw this back, because there's been in my life one loud voice, but just really across the globe, the sicko world that has all been sort of propagandizing. I don't even know if that's a word, but propagandizing, spewing a bunch of bullshit about how WWE is bullying TNA and that WWE is going to buy TNA and they're ruining TNA and this deal isn't good for TNA. Guys, this partnership right here just got TNA what appears to be a $30 million contract from AMC Television, which, let's just be honest, hasn't been relevant since Walking Dead. And it gives relevant content that people can go and watch on a weekly basis on AMC TV. It's on YouTube TV, so I can watch it. I'm a probably record it. I'm not going to tune in Thursdays. I'll probably record it though and watch it on Friday. Right? And it makes things so interesting because I love TNA's product. The thing with me has always been TNA is on an unaccessible network. And I'm not going to either get Sling TV and pay another $50 a month just to watch TNA or pay for TNA Plus to watch TNA. Like I'm not that interested, but I can be. If they gave me TV weekly that I could watch, maybe it'll tempt me to. Now, what I'm hoping could happen is that TNA, through this deal, can move to a model where more than likely you're going to have to get another stream. I kind of wish that it'll lead to maybe, since they're partnering with AMC, that their PLEs, their pay-per-views, you can watch them can you imagine being the only lone motherfucker in an AMC theater watching TNA Bound for Glory? I'll be that guy. I'd be that guy, 100%. Because I don't want to pay for TNA. Honestly, I don't want to pay for TNA Plus. I can't afford I can't afford to pay for it every year for 4 events, and I can't afford $40 every time to watch a pay-per-view from them, right? So, but this at least gives me a place to watch their weekly episodic television, right? And so I'm excited with that. But with that, let's go and discuss NXT Deadline 2025 live from San Antonio, Texas. Tomorrow night, I think it starts at 7 p.m. Yep, 7 p.m. Eastern Time start, where we have, as it stands, a 5-match card, which is wonderful. We have, so let's sort of set up what we have. We have 2 Iron Survivors. You have the NXT Championship match, and then you have 2 mid-card matches that are going to be fun. Right? That are going to be fun. So we'll start with, we know without a doubt, Obafemi and Ricky Saints. Ava mentioned this on Tuesday, that Ricky Saints and Obafemi will start the show, which is going to be real fun. And I'm going to predict a wild card wrench in the system. I think Obafemi wins his title back. I really do. I think Obafemi wins his title back. I don't know why I feel that way, and I'm probably wrong, and I'm okay with that. I just don't see, other than, okay, we just got to give one more match for Oba to sort of wish him farewell, and that could be the case. I don't, if that was the case, I don't think you would have Oba come in, and he feels like he's going to be a permanent character. I feel like Oba just needed some time off. And because of that, like I'm 100% honest with you. Like, I feel Ricky Saints would be a bigger character on, on the main roster. I feel Ricky Saints would be better on the main roster than Oba, because Oba doesn't fit in anywhere right now. He like he's not going to go unless you're going to have him be like a giant that just beats the entire mid-card. Because he's better than the entire mid-card. I'm just going to straight up say that. Like, he's better than the mid-card right now. Like, there's some of these characters, right, that come to NXT. They go to the main roster, and they're a big fish, but the pond got bigger. Right? And so I think Oba is an NXT character. He's someone that you could build NXT around. And it's sort of like the thing with like JC Jane. Well, why doesn't JC go move up? Because JC Jane, she's a big fish in WWE. But right now she's in a medium-sized pond. And I say it that way because the NXT women's division is talented and it's big. She's in a pretty big pond right now. The main roster is an ocean. And if JC Jane walked up, I'm just straight up telling you, is JC Jane bigger? I think I can name 10 women that JC Jane would immediately be behind if she got caught up. So yeah, I think from a business perspective, it makes sense to keep her down. Keeps her relevant. And so yeah, Obafemi's a beast. But you already have beast on the card. And unless the plan is Brock Lesnar, Obafemi, to put Oba over at Mania, unless that's the plan, I think that's the plan. I'll be honest with you, I think that's the plan for SummerSlam, though. And so I don't think you need to introduce Obafemi right now. Because I think the plan is Brock Lesnar's going to retire at SummerSlam in Minnesota, and he's going to have one more match. I think they'll build it up to be either a mystery opponent or something along those lines, and it's going to be Obafemi. And that's how I would book it. And so you don't need to introduce Obafemi until the summertime. And so I think he can win the title back. And then Ricky Saints, honestly, I feel can be moved up to the main roster in the new year. Whether it's to, maybe have Cody's back, maybe challenge Cody, be sort of that cog in the system, that maybe help Cody beat Roman Reigns or something. Who knows? Who knows what you'll do with Ricky? Maybe Ricky Saints is the masked man. That's who they want it to be portrayed as, and they're just waiting for him to drop the title here to give it to him, right? Who knows? That'll be fun. Ricky Saints, CM Punk for the World Championship. That'll be fun. But, yeah, I could see that happening. Now, so let's move to the mid-card matches. We'll start with the newest addition to the card, and that's Ethan Page versus Mr. Iguana for the North American Championship. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. I love this match, man. I love this. This is why I love that they got into AAA. And they bought it. Because you have this character like Mr. Iguana. Here's my thing. Ethan Page is the best pro wrestler on the planet right now, in my opinion. Like, if I had to rank, you said, hey, you have to rank pro wrestlers. Who's the best? I said, well, what's the criteria? Well, any pro wrestler in any promotion, doesn't matter what, indies, anything. Okay? Well, here's the thing. If you're not in AEW or WWE, just immediately you're not in the top 10. We're just going to go ahead and say that. If you're not signed to AEW or WWE, you're not in the top 10. So that gets us to about 300 people? And definitely all of them aren't being used. So easily to chalk it down. To which I will then say, from a character, from an in-ring, from a charisma, from a kayfabe standard of what he does on TV and what his results are, wins, losses, and stuff like that. Guys, Ethan Page is the best right now, right? He has the best character. He has charisma. He has very good in-ring performances every single match. Ethan Page is the best to me, right? And then you get this gimmick like Mr. Iguana, which is just going to be fun. It's going to frustrate Ethan Page, right? With that being said, Ethan Page is winning this. Ethan Page has to win this match. Could you imagine if Mr. Iguana is running around with the North American Championship? I mean, the only way I see that happening is if there's a AAA event that I'm not aware of that is happening soon, where Ethan Page can either go try to get the title back or a new opponent emerges, in AAA. And if that's the case, so here's my thing. Like, if you're going to involve AAA, you have to give the American audience who doesn't watch in Mexico, right? Because we can't watch. You have to give us a way to view the product on a weekly basis, right? They just got a TV deal in Mexico with, I forgot who it was, which is big. But if you're going to include NXT superstars and all of that, you are going to have to give the viewing audience in the United States the ability to watch on a weekly basis. Right? You're going to have to do that. And so, with that being said, Ethan Page, I think, is going to win. I'm going to have so much fun with that match. Right? The other mid-card match is Tatum Paxley Tater versus Izzy Dame. I don't know how this match is going to end, to be honest with you. I want Tatum to win, but I imagine she's going to lose. What I do think is going to happen is she's going to have some backup show up. I don't know if I was dreaming when I, and that's what I'm remembering, or if this was the promo from Tuesday. But didn't she have two chairs sitting next to her in the promo? Now I gotta go figure this out. I'm pretty certain she had two chairs sitting next to her. In the promo she did on Tuesday. I'm 100% certain she's got backup. Who it's going to be, I have no idea. Part of me thinks this would be cool to introduce Shiloh Hill in this role, because he's a little weird, right? Shiloh Hill's little promos here, they get weirder and weirder. I like them, though. I really do. And here's a reason why, because it gives us a different scenery than in the arena. He's in his little cave where he does all his conspiracy work at, right? I like that they're playing this into his gimmick, that he surfs the dark web, and he's a little bit weird. I like these type of characters. So I think it would be cool to introduce him as, yeah. See, just found it. She had 2 stools next to her. She's getting some male help, and we're gonna end up getting a mixed tag type thing with Nico, or with the culling, Nico, Sean Spears, and Izzy versus Tatum and her 2 buddies, whoever they are. Right? I don't know how the match ends. If I have to pick, because I have to do predictions, I'm gonna pick Tatum Paxley. I'm more interested, though, in everything but the result. I want to know how the plot thickens, because this has potential to be a really fun feud, right? And notice, it doesn't center around anything other than you cost me my title. There's no title on the line. There's no stipulations, right? This will be fun. I think it's going to set up a fun New Year's Evil match. Mixed tag, six person, right? Speaking of New Year's Evil, let's end by predicting who's going to be the number 1 competitor in both the women's and men's division for the title at New Year's Evil. Let's start with the men's. We got Javon Evans, Leon Slater, Joe Hendry, Dion Lennox, and Miles Bourne. The obvious pick is Joe Hendry. Now, he's finally part of WWE's roster. Now they can push him. I don't think it's Joe Hendry. He's in here I think he's going to be the dude that's like 3 seconds away, just let it fall through his fingertips type guy, right? So my prediction will actually make sense. So if I believe Obo's winning the title back, then I need a babyface to win this, which would make Joe Hendry the favorite. Because now I'm thinking about, I don't know if a babyface is winning this, because I don't know if they're going to split up Leon Slater and Javon Evans so quickly. But it will make sense if the partnership's ending and the TV deals come. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I don't think the partnership's actually ending. I think that's just an overreaction. But I'm going to pick Miles Bourne. Part of me wants to pick Dion Lennox, but I think it's going to be Miles Bourne. Because he's sort of that tweener guy. He could fill in. What I like about Obafemi's character, right, is Obafemi's not a heel and he's not really a face. And that's what I like about my characters. So the problem is, with Super Cena, let's just use John Cena, right? With Super Cena, he was your super mega white meat babyface, right? He could do every story he was in, he had to be the good guy, right? Which got boring and repetitive because you knew that there was only 10 to 12 guys on the roster he could fight because they were the bad guys, right? With Obafemi, he's not your white meat babyface, but he's also not like your evil heel either. So Obafemi is the entire male roster that he could fight against. And I think that makes it very, very easy to book Obafemi. Because you could just literally put anybody against him. Right? No matter what, people are going to cheer for Obafemi. I think Miles Bourne. I think Miles Bourne is going to be the next person they try to push. And I say that because I also believe Javon Evans will be main roster bound here soon. I think Ricky Saints will be main roster bound soon. I think Javon Evans is going to be main roster bound and Trick Williams. I think the big three from this year will be on the main roster next year. And so I don't think Javon Evans is going to win the title. Solely because he's going to be placed in a situation on the main roster. And he can run that mid-card division on the main roster and be very good at it. So I think that's where he's going. 100%. So I'm going to pick Miles Bourne. Now we're going to end the predictions with the women's Survivor. Sol Ruka, Lola Vice, Kalani Jordan, Jordan Grace, Kendall Gray. Everyone wants to pick Jordan Grace. I don't. I actually think like when John Cena announced who was in it and Jordan Grace came on, I immediately said she's not winning. Everyone said, "Oh, she's winning." I said she's not winning. Right? Same thing with Sol Ruka. She's not winning this. Kalani Jordan is not winning this. It's just not happening. Which gives us two choices. You either go Lola Vice or you go Kendall Gray. If I was booking this, I would book it as Kendall Gray because she's the next big baby face in NXT. The problem with that, though, is she works so much better as a heel. From what I've seen, right? They had when they had her with Carly Bright, and they were the in Evolve, and she had to try to be like she literally in the first episode went from being happy, smiley to the evil sort of why am I with this woman, right? She would just work so much better as the villain. And so, I'm going to be honest with you. When I saw these names, I immediately said, they're giving the title to Lola Vice. She's going to be the next star. Right? She's going to be the next one. It's going to be Lola. And I think once Lola wins it, you can then pick up Jada. First off, where the fuck is, excuse my language, where is Jada Parker at? I'm just telling you, like my stock of Jada Parker has dropped significantly. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like outside of the fact that she's got a booty on her, I'm not really sold on Jada Parker, man. I'm just gonna be honest with you. She's pretty, and that's all she really got going for her, in my opinion. The next, before I move on though, we go fourth and deep. I just want to say I saw someone say that Sol Ruka, people are talking about Sol Ruka now, and they do what they always do. The IWC does what the IWC always does. Sol Ruka's the best. She needs the championship. They start pushing Sol Ruka, double champion. They maybe a little bit overbooked. Oh, no, Sol Ruka, man, she's a one-hit wonder. Her move sucks, man. That the Soul Snatcher's just awful. No. The Soul Snatcher's the best finisher in wrestling. Objectively. Can literally be hit from anywhere. Oh, but the wrestler, JC had to dive into... Yeah. That's kind of how wrestling works. The problem with these freaking marks on the internet is they learn that wrestling isn't real. They learn that it's essentially ballet, and it's essentially dance, athletic dance, really. Meaning, what does that mean, right? In dance, you have to flow with your dance partner, right? You have to cooperate with them. You have to move in sync. Same thing with wrestling, right? So when the Soul Snatcher happens, you have to put yourself in a position for it to look realistic. Right? Now, does JC Jane diving into the Soul Snatcher, where she dives, essentially, to lay out flat, if she didn't do that, the move would hurt somebody, right? That's just sort of how wrestling works. Do you actually think that Big Show was chucking these people up in the air when he did his chokeslam, or that Kane was chokeslamming these people by picking them 20 feet in the... No, they're jumping. Right? But here's the thing. You have people like me who learn this, learn the art of selling and what it is, and that it's a dance and it's a cooperation, and I learn it, and I don't call it out, and I don't let it ruin the illusion. So yes, Sol Ruka's move is a little bit silly, but it's still freaking, like, when it literally can be hit from anywhere. Right? But these IWC nerds, they find things that make and they're not willing to buy into the illusion. They're just not. They want it to be real so bad. Right? It's like watching, if you ever watch on the CW, Penn and Teller has a show where magicians can come on and try to fool them. Guys, you can't fool Penn and Teller. They know like practically every magic magic trick in the game, right? But they still play into it. Right? They still play into it. When they're being told, hey, I need you to do this and pick this card, they play into it because they understand that what makes magic magical is the illusion. What makes wrestling magical is the illusion. If you self-remove the illusion and start nitpicking every little thing that happens, and you remove the illusion, that's why wrestling's not fun to you anymore. And you're kind of the problem, right? The removing of the curtain to where everything needs to be known and everything needs to be athletic and gym, like, I'll give for example, right? Kendall Gray, right? She did she does gymnastics type stuff in the ring, but she does it in a way where she sells it as if it could be realistic, right? The act of selling is something that is completely lost on a lot of new wrestlers and a lot of wrestling fans is the art of selling and the art of illusion. And if these wrestling fans would just allow there to be that illusion, they would understand and enjoy wrestling so much more. Anyway, let's move to football. Spent a whole hour on wrestling. That's probably the most I've talked about wrestling in months. Anyway, let's move on to football real quick. So let's jump into Patriot Corner. I don't have a lot to say about this week in the NFL outside of what the Patriots did, mostly because I don't remember it. This is why I record on Mondays, because I don't remember anything. And I don't want to talk about Cowboys-Lions because that's week 14 and we're talking week 13 right now. Though Cowboys-Lions was a pretty good game. But let's talk about the game I do remember, and that is Monday night's Patriots-Giants matchup, and we're going to talk about Patriot Corner. Let me just tell you something right now. Here's where I'm at. Right now. If you are hating the Patriots right now, you're just a hater. At this point, there is no objective reason for you to be complaining and hating on the New England Patriots. The Patriots are a legitimate threat to win the Super Bowl this year. Oh, but they don't play nobody. That's funny. That's really funny. Considering, I just want to use logic and facts here. Let's just use logic and facts. The Bills play 14 common opponents to the New England Patriots. The Bills do. 14 common opponents. Their schedule's not hard, is it? Oh, no, it's not. It's just not hard, is it? That's crazy talk, bro. It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I hate that. Well, your schedule's too easy. You're playing a 4th place in the division schedule. You're playing all the guys. I need you to understand this. We don't get to pick the schedule. You play the schedule that's in front of you. You play the schedule that's in front of you. But you also got to realize we've played some really, really, really solid defenses, right? Right. Really, the opposite of what should happen happened, right? We come in, we play a team like the Browns. When we play them, had like the busiest pass rush. I think we're leading the league in sacks at the time we played the Browns. And we just went in there and stomped them. But then we go in and we play the worst defense in the league in the Bengals and almost lose the game. That's just sort of how our team is. But we scratch and claw to win it. That's kind of funny. Like, look, I'm not sitting here saying the Patriots are perfect. But when you look at the current playoff class, like there's a real legitimate chance your defending AFC champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, will not be in the playoffs, much less the Super Bowl. There is a real legitimate chance that the Chiefs won't make the playoffs. There's a real legitimate chance if things don't go the way that the Bills want them to go. I mean, the Bills essentially have to win out to make the playoffs. Let's just be honest. The Bills are the 7th seed right now. They have to win out. They're 1 game ahead of Houston right now. And Houston beat them. Guys, I'm telling you right now. I'm assuming Buffalo wins this week. They play the Bengals in Buffalo. I'm assuming the Bengals win this week. They got the Bengals, right? They have the Patriots next week in New England. That game should be moved, should be flexed to the 425, by the way. I'm just saying. Anyway, because that is if the Patriots win, they clinch the division game. That's literally what that is. Then they have the Browns in Cleveland. They have Philly, and they have the Jets. The Bills have to win out. They have to go 5 for 5. I don't think they do. I don't think the Bills go 5 for 5. I 100% am going to remain confident that the Patriots beat the Bills next week. And the Patriots are going to lock up the AFC East. But I also think the Bills, because they can't rest anybody, they're going to play everyone. And when they play the Eagles, who also probably will not be in a circumstance where they could rest anyone, because the Eagles, as they stand right now, have to win 3 of the last 5 games. They have to win 3 of the last 5 to win the division. That includes this week with the Chargers, next week against the Raiders, 2 against the Commanders, and then the Bills. Those are their last 5 games. They have to win 3 of them. Realistically, that could happen. By the time they get to the Bills game, they should beat the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Commanders, you would think, right? I don't think so. I think the Eagles are losing this week to the Chargers. I really do. Monday night in L.A., I think the Eagles are losing. Which means that they're going to have to win 3 of the last 4. Raiders I think they win both Commanders games and the Raiders game. I think they win the division. But what I'm trying to say is Sunday, 12/28, Week 17, Eagles-Bills, where the Bills are going to have to play everyone, and the Eagles are going to have to play everyone, and the Eagles are going to need to play hard, right? I think the Bills are going to win that game. I do. And I think and so it's going to be a fun game. But the point that I'm trying to say here is there could be a chance the Eagles win that game, right? Like the Bills realistically could lose to the Patriots and the Eagles. So let's just assume that's the case. Let's say that's the case. They go 3 out of 5. They lose to the Patriots. They lose to the Eagles. They beat the Bengals. They beat the Browns. They beat the Jets. They finish 11-6. Right? Houston has to win out. And it's not easy because they got the Chiefs this week in Kansas City. But they have the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Colts. They have to win out. Now, all they really have to do, all the Texans have to do, the Texans need 2 things to happen. Texans need to win 4 of the last 5. That'll put them at 11-6. They need to win 4 of the last 5. That'll put them at 11-6. And they need the Bills to lose 2 games. They need the Bills to lose 2. They need to win 4. Then the Texans are in the playoffs. Right? The point that I'm trying to say is when you look at the AFC right now, so the 7th seed right now is Buffalo, and it might be Houston. Right? But above that, you have Indy, the Chargers, you have Baltimore, you have Jacksonville, you have Denver, and you have New England. New England is a legitimate force right now. Denver plays the Raiders this week. Will probably win and take over the 1st seed solely because of common record, I think. Common opponents. Now, I would really, really hope the Raiders win. If the Raiders can beat Denver this week, that'll be wonderful. Highly doubt. I need the Broncos to lose 1 more game. I need the Patriots to win out, and I need the Broncos to lose 1 game. There's a chance the Broncos could lose multiple games, though, because they got the Raiders this week, but after that, their last 4 weeks is crazy. But the Packers, the Jags, the Chiefs, and the Chargers, so they spend most of those. The only game they have on the road after Vegas this week is the Chiefs. So they spend 3 of the last 4 weeks in Denver. Yeah, the Patriots have 4 games remaining. Bills, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins. Right? I 100% believe the Patriots are winning out. 100% believe the Patriots are winning out. The point that I'm saying here about scheduling and about all of this stuff is the same people complaining right now, oh, the Patriots, they play the easiest schedule. These same people said after the schedule was released in the offseason, the Patriots are going to be a 5-win team. There's only 5 wins on this schedule. There's no way the Patriots... Guys, was I not in the preseason telling you 12 wins? I predicted 12. I think we're getting 15. But I predicted 12. Right? I predicted 12. Like I knew looking at the schedule that it would be in our benefit. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Why did they think that we were only getting 5 wins? Because they thought that the team that they saw on paper, they based it off of last year. And they said, well, this team, they didn't realize the biggest change was the head coach and the culture and what that would do. But we got some ballers on the team now. We got Spillane and we got Diggs and Drake May's playing out of this world, right? Things that you couldn't really prepare for. Like you couldn't prepare for Drake May in his 2nd season, really his first full season, to come and play MVP caliber football. I mean, this dude has had the most consistent passing stats I've ever seen in a season. Like he gets like 250, 280 yards a game, somewhere in that range, consistently. Has yet to have a 300-yard game, yet he leads the league in passing yards. There's a threat here, right? There's a threat for the Patriots to go. And if they get the 1 seed and the playoffs come through New England, the playoffs coming through New England would be dangerous. We get the first round bye. Everyone that's hurt right now is going to be healthy by week 18. If we can beat the Bills next week and lock up the division, just rest the rest of the that's the only way I see us not winning out, is that we don't play everyone. If we beat the Bills next week and we lock it up and we start resting people, that's the only way I see that we start losing games, which I would be okay with. I would be okay winning the division and potential. I don't think we lose to the Jets or the Dolphins. The Ravens could be one of those games we lose in Baltimore, and I'd be fine with losing that game, 100%. Especially if it's because we're resting players. But to go from a team that was, get this, if we didn't win Week 18 last season, we were the number 1 pick. To go from that team to being the number 1 record in football right now, in one season, schedule hard or not, like these are the top 1% of all football players in the world. Playing the easiest team in the NFL is still playing a very hard team. Right? Like, I'm so tired of hearing all the, right? But this is how you know the Patriots are back. Because it's excuse after excuse after excuse as to why the Patriots aren't good. Guys, they're a threat. If a bye week this week, I don't know what I'm going to do this week on Sunday. I'm just going to, because typically what I would do is I'm just going to be honest with you. Y'all might lose some. Like, I like watching the Cowboys for 2 reasons. I can yell "Go Cowboys" and annoy my dad. That's the number 1 reason. That's the main reason. But I like Dak Prescott. I have to say, I like watching Dak Prescott play football. He does some stupid things sometimes. Right? Here's what I got to say. Cowboys are a really good football team. Right? The Cowboys are a really good football team. They really are. I think they need the same thing everyone else thinks they need. And that is Jerry Jones to croak and Steven to hire a GM when it does happen. But it's mainly the reason I like watching the Cowboys is so I can just yell "Go Cowboys" and irritate my dad. Because he's an Eagles fan. But, I can't even watch them. I'm not, like I don't really watch anybody else outside the Patriots anyway. And the Eagles play on Monday. So I'll watch that. But there's really nothing on Sunday this week that I really care about. Panthers are on a bye week, so I can't even go to a game this week to watch like the Patriots, to watch like the Panthers. And then you look at some of these games, like Jets-Dolphins is going to be boring. Saints-Buccaneers is going to be boring. Ravens-Steelers might be the game I watch. That's going to be a good game. Colts-Jaguars is going to be a good game. We got the Browns-Titans, that's awful. Vikings-Commanders, that's awful. Falcons-Seahawks, I don't know about all that. Bills-Bengals, don't care. Broncos-Raiders, don't care. Bears-Packers as the game of the week. on Fox is going to be a fun one. Cardinals-Rams is going to be interesting, probably boring, but interesting. And then Sunday night with the Texans-Chiefs, that'll be a fun game to watch. I need the Texans to win that. But, if the Texans can win and the Bengals can win and beat the Bills, that'll be the greatest thing ever for me. But, yeah. Let's move on. To college football playoffs. Let's just talk about this real quick. This is going to be a long episode, y'all. And it's because there's a lot of big topics here. So, college football playoffs. So, for those who don't know. The college football playoff, I think it's about a decade in the making. It started out as top 4 teams. Everyone knew that was just a trial error basis to see if the playoffs would generate income. And it did, big time, right? Everyone knew expansion was going to happen. And so they expanded it last year to 12 teams. Now, when they did that, I told everybody, 12 teams won't be enough. And everyone was like, well, what are you talking about? I was like, well, look at the rules here, right? Look at the rules. And they said, what about the rules? I said, well, there's 5 auto bids for conference championships. So essentially, for those who don't know how college football is set up, you have 10 conferences in Division I football, or FBS football, because FCS football is also Division I. So I want to make sure I say the right terminology. FBS football, which is the top 100, and there's like 124 teams that play FBS college football. That's the top of the top, right? So there's 10 conferences there. You have the ACC, the Atlantic, that's the Atlantic Coast Conference. You have the Athletic Conference, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, Mountain West, Sun Belt, Mid-Atlantic Conference, or the MAC, the Pac-12, which only has 2 teams in it for this until next year, and then the 10th is, what am I missing? The Mountain West, right? So, you have what was called the Power 5 conferences. So that would be the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Pac-12. Those were called the Power 5. It's now the Power 4 because the Pac-12, being that there's only 2 teams, I don't think any of those teams, Oregon State or Washington State, are championship eligible because they don't play conference games. So none of them really, right? They're essentially independent, really. I mean, that gives me another. There's your independent teams as well. There's only 2 of them. Notre Dame and UConn, I think, at the moment. But I think UConn's about to join a conference. But anyway, the point of what I'm saying is, so you have your Power 4, ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12. And next year, when the Pac-12 has a full conference because teams are joining it, they'll be back into the Power 5 conferences. The other 5 conferences are what they call the Group of 5 or the G5. Right? So your Sun Belt, your Athletic, Sun Belt, your American Athletic Conference, Mid-Atlantic, the MAC, the Mountain West, and the, who am I forgetting? Sun Belt, AAC, Mid-Atlantic, CUSA, Conference USA. Excuse me. Anyway, the point of that is, so to get into the playoffs, you have essentially auto bids for 4 of the power. So essentially, the Power 4, we'll say it this way. It's the way the rules are written, it's the top 5 ranked conference champions, which typically, that's how the rules are written in case, like, you have one of the, like, you could have technically 2 group of 5 teams make it if one of the Power 5 schools conferences just absolutely suck. But realistically, on a good year, essentially you have 4 of, essentially those auto bids are for the group of 5. Right? Or excuse me, are for the Power 5. Really the Power 4, because the Pac-12 really shouldn't be a Power 5 conference. But anyway, essentially how historically that would work would be your ACC, your SEC, your Big 10, your Big 12 champions would get auto bids. And then you would have the highest ranked group of 5 conference champion. And the way those are written, I still don't think, in my opinion, it's not enough. It's not, there's not enough, disparity there. There's still going to be argument, right? The argument right now in this debate is it going to be Tulane or JMU? Is it going to be the Sun Belt or the AAC? Right? Because many would argue that JMU's the better football team, myself included. And JMU should be in the playoffs. The other argument that we're having right now, the other conversation we're having right now, is because of the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, which at this point is everything but the Atlantic Coast, because we got 2 teams that literally play in California, and one in Texas, and one in Kentucky, one in Pennsylvania. Like, it's not even the Atlantic Coast anymore, right? The stupid name for the conference now. But anyway, I like, part of me really wants Cal to win the ACC one of these years, so the Atlantic Coast Conference can be shipped all the way to the Pacific Coast. Anyway, the ACC championship game, because the ACC had no foresight when they wrote their conference championship rules, and they wrote in tiebreakers. They had no foresight to put in their highest ranked team. If there was a tiebreaker, the highest ranked team gets in. That should be the first tiebreaker, right? After conference, because the way conference championships are formulated, just in general, is conference records. So in college football, you play in conference games and you play out of conference games, right? And so this year's ACC championship is Virginia versus Duke. And this is why it's just a shame that this is the game. Virginia deserves it because outside of Miami, Virginia's the highest ranked ACC team. The problem is there was a 5-way tie. There's a 5-way tie in conference record in the ACC this year. Between Virginia, let me go conference record. So Virginia, there was a 5-way tie for second place. Virginia went 7-1 in the conference and outright won the regular season record. So they deserve their spot in here, 100%. The second place game, for the conference, there's a 5-way tie for the second team between SMU, Miami, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, and Duke. They all went 6-2. Now, Duke got lucky that they got handed the win at Clemson, by the way. But anyway, I'm gonna name those teams again They all went 6-2 in the conference. I'm going to tell you their overall record, right? SMU went 8-4. Miami went 10-2. Pittsburgh went 8-4. Georgia Tech went 9-3. And the Duke Blue Devils went 7-5. Let me tell you, they're barely bowl eligible. What's the tie? Is points for the tiebreaker? I don't even know the reason why Duke got it, because I don't know the tiebreaker. It better not be points for. That's stupid. Okay, so Duke is in because they finished in a 5-way tie, 6-2 record in the conference, and won a complex tiebreaker based on opponents' overall. That's stupid. Can I see the ACC tiebreakers? That's so stupid, bro. Duke's conference opponents had a better overall record than the conference opponents of Miami, SMU, Pitt, and Georgia Tech. Wow. I just want you to understand that this is a team that lost to UConn. And so the argument is, if Duke wins this game, if they come in and they play Virginia. Now, let's just be honest here. ACC needs to redo their tiebreakers. First off, you should never have to go to tiebreaker number 5. And you should never, in my opinion, use strength of schedule as a tiebreaker. Or opponent's record, common opponent's record or whatever. I don't think that's fair. You can't control that. It's the tiebreaker should be easy. We got 5 teams tied at 6-2. 2 of them are ranked in the top 25. Those should be the only 2 considered. Georgia Tech and Miami. Those should be the only 2 considered. This is why I have a you shouldn't be bowl eligible unless you have 8 wins. Right? So my first tiebreaker would be, are you bowl eligible? Meaning, do you have 8 wins? That immediately eliminates Duke. Right? Then the 2 8-4 teams, SMU and Pitt, you get eliminated because you're not ranked. Right? So there's tiebreaker number 2. Now we're down to Miami and Georgia Tech. And then you can either say who's the highest ranked team and really just get it over with at that point. Or then if you want to compare strength of schedules and all of that, then I think you should be able to do that. But to not include, Miami should be in this game. It should be Virginia versus Miami. It should be Virginia versus Miami. Let's just be honest. All right. I just for the sake of me being curious, the ACC has 7 tiebreakers. The first one is head-to-head win percentage. Win percentage in games between the tiebreaker teams. Every team plays its opponent either 0 or 1 time. This tiebreaker is applicable only if all tiebreaker teams have played each other. So that one, I don't think is applicable. because I don't think all the tie-breaking teams played each other. So then you have head-to-head sweep. Every team plays its conference opponent either 0 or 1 time. A team wins this tiebreaker if it plays all the tiebreaker teams and wins every single such game. Okay, so essentially, again, I don't think they all played each other, so I don't think it goes to that. So it goes to common games, common game record. A common game is against a common opponent. The common opponent must be common to each and every team in the tiebreaker, meaning everyone has to play the same team. Essentially, this eventually got knocked down to essentially it went straight to Rule 5 because the first 4 rules don't apply to everyone, because who imagines a 5-team tiebreaker? But here's my favorite. If you're tied all the way to Rule 6, all the way to Rule 7, it's just a coin flip. That's stupid, bro. ACC needs to change that. That's crazy. Anyway, the conversation going on, this is why I had to set this up. The conversation going on here is, if Duke beats Virginia, if somehow Duke finds a way to beat Virginia tomorrow, should Duke get in the college football playoff with an 8-5 record? Guys, the logical answer is no. The logical answer is no. And so here's what a lot of people think will happen, and I actually agree. Then I'm going to tell you my suggestion on how we can fix all of this. If Duke wins, they don't get in, because the rules strictly say, it doesn't say Power 5 gets 4 teams in automatically. No, it literally just says, as it's written, you have to enforce it as the rules are written. The highest 5 written conference champions. Meaning, if Duke wins the conference championship game, the ACC will have 0 teams in the playoffs as we stand, because Miami probably will not be in. Virginia's only chance to get in is to win tomorrow. Miami has a case. And that case is they're a really good football team. No, so Miami has a case, and that case is very small, though. And so I like to use this playoff predictor that ESPN does. So Miami has an 11% chance to make the college football playoffs. They're really the last team to be considered. They really need Virginia to win. Because if Virginia wins, there is a chance Miami gets in. BYU's another one of those teams that could get in, that's on the bubble, right? But as it stands, I don't like. Let's just assume Duke wins. Duke has 0 chance to get in. But if Duke wins, what will happen? You will get the Athletic Conference the American Athletic Conference, the AAC. You will get them in. Their conference champion, either North Texas or Tulane, they will get in. And then if JMU can win the Sun Belt, they will get in. If JMU doesn't win the Sun Belt, then that brings a whole bunch of other problems. Here's what Miami needs. Miami, despite beating, and so everyone's saying Miami should be in because they beat Notre Dame and Notre Dame's going to be in. Right? That's everyone's argument. And I don't like the argument. I really don't. Miami needs Alabama to lose. Because Georgia's in no matter what. Georgia's going to make the college football playoffs. They're the number one. They're in the top 4 teams in the country right now. If Alabama loses to Georgia in the SEC championship game, Alabama probably won't get in. Miami could get in. It's going to come down to Miami versus Alabama, probably for that last spot in. At that point. Right. BYU right now has to beat Texas Tech. Right? That's another thing. So, as well, if BYU beats Texas Tech, which I don't think will happen, Texas Tech, I think, is going to throttle BYU. If that happens, Miami's not going to make it because Texas Tech is one of those teams as well. So Miami really, what Miami needs is Texas Tech to win and Georgia to win. That makes BYU and Alabama lose. Only one of them will probably get an at-large bid. It will probably be Bama. Brigham Young will be out, and Miami could be in, right? But really the battle right now is Bama, BYU, Miami as to who gets essentially that last spot. But can we offer a solution that will fix all of this? Because every year we get to March and we get to March Madness, and I'm sure for some people this conversation happens in March Madness, but it's not a large enough conversation. And why is that? Because March Madness rewards every single conference champion. But, right, now I get the argument against this is that, well, basketball is a different sport, blah, blah, blah. Hey, guys, listen. So real easy. Don't play conference championship games. Whoever regular season wins the conference in the regular season wins the conference. They're the auto bid. So Virginia would be the auto bid in the ACC. You don't play a conference championship game. I think conference championship games are completely useless in football, right? Especially, like, I don't think they're needed. Essentially what I'm saying is you scale March Madness. I've said this for the last several years. You scale March Madness to college football. You make it the December to Remember tournament, right? You have 10 auto bids. Every single conference champion gets an auto bid. And then you do the next 22 best teams. And how do you rank the next 22 best teams? Well, you have a committee who ranks them throughout the entire year. You have the AP polls. Right? And so that, to me, is the best solution for equality and equity and opportunity, equal opportunity at winning the title per conference. It makes everybody's regular season mean more because we don't have a conference championship game. Right? Essentially what I would say do is instead of running 12 games, a 12-game regular season, run a 9-game regular season with 9 conference games. I know this would remove a lot of rivalries, like Clemson, South Carolina, right? I know that. So, okay, let's do that. Because even in basketball, you play non-conference. But in basketball, how does college basketball work, right? You play like 10 non-conference games, and then you play your conference the entire, like the last 2.5 months leading up to March Madness, right? You play all conference games. So you play like 40 regular season games, and if I remember correctly, like somewhere between 25 to 30 of them are conference games. And so to me, one not in football, again, you got to scale it. Play a 9-game regular season, 8 conference games, 1 non-conference, which can be used to like a protected rivalry like Clemson and South Carolina, right? The problem is a lot of teams, if they're going to get a non-conference game, even if you just do the 12-game season like you already do, have every conference do 9 conference games, 3 non-conference games, right? All your non-conference games have to happen as your first 3 games of the year, right? And then you run 9 straight conference games. Right? And then or whatever, however you really want to run it. It doesn't really matter. The point of the matter is, of what I'm trying to persuade, is 32 teams in the playoffs, I believe, fixes all of these issues. Regular season conference winners, auto bids. The next 22 best teams, there's your playoff. You can run this. So Army-Navy is always the second week of December. You start the tournament the next Saturday after that. So the third week of December, you start the first round. And then, I mean, you could honestly start the first round the week of what would be conference championship week, and then just have Army-Navy be the next week, and then do the second round after that, because Army and Navy more than likely are never going to be in the playoffs. You get the point, right? You get the point of what I'm saying, though. So, I think this would eliminate every single issue that's a problem. And yeah, I'll just end it there just for the sake of time. But 32 teams makes the most sense to me. We'll skip predictions for this week because we're running short on time. I don't want to make this Jim Cornette level long. Let's go to the questions from the Discord. B-Master shared a photo and was like, hey, what do you think of this? And essentially it was, I think the FDA cleared medicine to like anti-age your dogs, for your dogs to live longer. He asked me what I thought about it. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have thoughts about it. I wouldn't use it. I mean, it's Big Pharma doing what Big Pharma does. Try to, they can't make any more money off of human beings, so now we're going to go after dogs to try to keep them alive as long as possible and make them a slave to the system of medication. I don't know. I don't know who would. I think, though, I can give a thought. I think it says something about who we are as a people when we would probably care more about having our dogs live longer than our neighbors or anyone else around us that are humans. I think we live in a weird world where we like worship our pets, and it's kind of weird to me. Pets are cool and all, but like, I don't know. We care more about our dogs sometimes than we do other human beings. Like, I know people who are like, "Oh, I'm a mom of 4 dogs." No, ma'am, you're not a mom. You own 4 dogs. You're a dog owner. They're not your babies. I'm sorry. They're just not your babies. So I don't know. I don't really have a for or against this. I think it just speaks to the culture that we care more about animals than humans, and that's where my thoughts are. He asked, do you think major feuds or matches that are supposed to be hardcore should have blood in it? I'm assuming this is coming off of the realm of the most boring War Games matches ever. And I will say this. This is why I didn't say a lot when I talked about it. I will say this. If the gimmick is War Games, in the right, two things about this. If your gimmick is War Games or some hardcore stipulation, the story better call for hardcore. Because my answer is yes. If you get to the point to where you're doing a hardcore stipulation, there should be blood. Right? It should be a blood feud at that point. Whether it's Hell in a Cell, whether it's any hardcore type thing. The problem is WWE has used these hardcore gimmicks in ways that aren't hardcore to where they just mean nothing, right? Where no holds barred or extreme rules or street fights and all of that mean absolutely nothing because they overuse the gimmicks. Yeah. I do believe, though, if you're doing a match or a feud and the match requires a stipulation that is hardcore, first off, the story should be hardcore. There should be some, like, that should be like last case scenario, someone's got to die, right? And there should be blood in it, absolutely. He then asked, do you like the weapon choice WWE uses now compared to what they used in the past? Essentially, like, instead of thumbtacks, they use Legos. Here's my thing. I'm not a fan of hardcore wrestling or the use of weapons in matches, again, unless it requires it. And if it requires it in the story, use the thumbtacks, not the Legos, right? But I also think, like, the reason Legos even got popular is because some indie mark decided to do it in his match, and the nerds in the crowd cheered for it, and so, oh well, it worked here, it'll work here, and it's kind of stupid. But again, I don't think weapons should be used unless the story calls for it, and I think I don't think every story should call for it. I think you should, rarely use, like, when necessarily, and it's very rarely necessary, right? That's sort of my take on weapons. Another question here. Who is the greatest NXT superstar that came to the main roster that never won a world championship on either the main roster or NXT? I had a problem. First off, I misread the question the first time I read it. I read it as who didn't win a world title in NXT but did in the main roster. So I was like, oh, this is easy. Then I reread the question. I'm like, oh, fuck. I read it wrong. I don't know very many. So this probably would mean that they were mid-card in both. There's some that I could think of. But who's the greatest? I don't know. I don't know if you'd call it the greatest, but Joe Gacy's the first person that I think of, because Joe Gacy should have won the NXT championship. Like, there was a point in time where Joe Gacy was my favorite wrestler in NXT. Because his theme music, first off, is what won me over. But, like, his gimmick was great. He should have won the NXT championship, but he never did. Now he's stuck in the Y at 6, and I could give two fucks about him. But I'm going to use Joe Gacy, mainly because I don't really know anybody else. I mean, Dexter Loomis is the next one I could think of. Apollo Crews, maybe. But I don't know. Did he win the world title in NXT? I don't actually remember, right? So I don't have a really good memory. I don't have a good memory of these things, to be honest with you. But I'm going to go Joe Gacy. He then says, now on the other side, who is the superstar that won a world championship in NXT that totally sucks on the main roster? There's only one answer. It's not the guy's fault, it's his booking. But there's only one answer for this. There's only one answer for this. Won the world title, has really sucky run on the main roster. He's not even in the company anymore. It's Karrion Kross. He's the only... Okay, maybe Andrade. Because he won the NXT title and was, right, maybe him. Carmelo's in this run as well. If he don't win anything important in the next forever, you know. But we're going to go Karrion Kross. Maybe Keith Lee. Did Keith Lee win the NXT championship? I don't remember. I know he won the North American. I believe he was a double champion. I don't know. Adam Cole, baby. He was never on the main roster, so. But yeah, I'm going to go Karrion Kross. This dude was probably one of the hottest superstars in NXT. Comes to the main roster and just has nothing going for him at all. It's Karrion Kross. Excuse me. Kara came back with some questions. What do you think about OBJ saying that $100 million is not enough for a lifetime, even though he squandered the money? So the first thing I will say is the premise that OBJ is putting out here, that $100 million is not enough for a lifetime, is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. If I had $100 million right now, y'all be getting podcast episodes every single day. I'd be streaming. I'd have a whole setup. We'd be streaming live on Twitch and YouTube and all of it. I'd have Patreon set up. I'd be a lot better off as a podcaster if I had $100 million. I had $100 million. If while I'm recording this, right, my phone, which has all my notes on it, it turns over and I get a call and I answer the call and it says, we're giving you $100 million. If I looked at my bank account, it was $100 million. The first thing we're doing is getting like 6 other bank accounts because you're only guaranteed up to $250,000 in each bank account. So you're getting like 6 other bank accounts, and right, we're paying off bills. We're paying off families' bills. Like my family's gonna be tight, right? Next thing I'm doing, so I'm moving somewhere where it's not hot, because I'm tired of being hot. But bro, if I had $100 million, like I get what he's saying. If you don't know how to spend money properly, right? And I'm not gonna sit here and judge OBJ for not knowing how to manage his money as someone who probably wouldn't be able to manage $100 million. Like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. So I'm going to be honest. I had this realization. It's funny that a money question gets brought up, because I had this realization this week. Just came to me this week. I meant to talk about this. We'll go into this. I meant to start the show with this. Y'all are going to get like a 3-hour episode this week. I'm just going to be honest with you. I meant to start the episode this week with this. And it's needed for context to what I'm about to say here. So I'm in this dating server, right? So dating apps don't work. So now Randall's going to to Discord to try to find. It's a bad idea. And I've told you about this. It's a Christian dating server. And just like any other server that you find on Reddit, it's probably not 100% what it claims to be. But it's fine. It's well vetted. Like, I don't trust people in general, so before I give any information out, like, I have to know you're who you say you are and you're not a Fed. But, there was this person that I was sort of into, right? And I'm very picky. I just want to be honest with you. Like, the dating scene, for those who are, like, not dating, in the dating scene because you're married or in a relationship or whatever and you haven't been in the scene, it's difficult, bro. But it's even more difficult when you have the standards that I have. And it's not that I'm super picky. Like, I joke around and say that my 3 criteria are my 3 major criteria are that you're biologically a woman, that you're breathing and you're alive. That's sort of like my joke, but I have what I say standards in terms of, like, as I get to know you, like, you have to have common beliefs, common interest will be nice, but not required, right? You have to be somewhat attractive, like, because men are visual beings. Why are men always just, all you care about is how they look? Because we're visual human beings. Like, that's how we are. We literally are made to be visual. Right, that's what, like, we are attracted to you visually. Then we get to know you more. That's just how it works. That's how we're shaped. That's how the human race survives. Anyway, so this person, we were vibing. I liked her. I kind of, long story short, I told her, hey, let's, we're vibing. I'd be okay pursuing a relationship. And she was like, oh, no. I'm just a flirty person. I'm not that attracted to you. I'm just a flirty person. Y'all, you ever want to smack a hoe? It's crazy. But mixed with the fact that I get winter depression, what we call the winter blues, it was a crazy week for me. Like rejection doesn't bother me. I'm gonna be honest with you, it really doesn't bother me. But my epiphany that I came in with is God hasn't made me rich because I would either kill myself or kill somebody else if I had money. 100%. It's the epiphany that came to me. And so he's made me poor because I don't have the means to do either of the two. And so it's kind of a joke. But if I had 100 million, like literally, like that's more than a lifetime worth. Like it's crazy for what OBJ said. He just doesn't know how to spend money right. And I'm not going to judge him because I think I'd probably be in the same situation he would be in if I had 100 million, where I would just go buy stupid stuff. Right? But anyway, next question she asked, what is the absolute worst movie that has ever involved a wrestler? I think there's legitimately one answer for this. And not really one. You can have others. But we're going the 1996 atrocity with Hulk Hogan called Santa with Muscles. We're just going to go with that. And that's kind of the consensus because it's got a 1.9 out of 10 on IMDb, excuse me. But yeah, we'll go with that. She then asks, you discovered land. It's yours to claim. You get to create your own country. What would you name your country and what would it be like? So the first thing is we're going up to the Arctic. We're claiming one of them islands up there. So I can have cold weather year round. And we're going to form the country, the Republic of Ventura. So Venterra literally translates in Scandinavian to winter. Venterra is like I said, in the northern Atlantic between Iceland and Norway, somewhere around there, right? Subarctic coastlines, icy mountains, long winters. Government will run constitutional republic, just like America, right? We're going to speak English there, but we'll also allow sort of Nordic languages. This going to be 100% real with y'all. Strict immigration policy, closed borders, long vetting. Yeah. But, yeah. Venterra. Hopefully no one comes to join me. No, I'm kidding. Y'all can come join us. It'll be fine. But Venterra. She then asks, Hulu has approached you. Hey, you get to make a documentary of any wrestler you choose. She put in the stipulation I can't choose Sami Zayn, which is fine. I wasn't going to pick him to begin with. Who would I pick? Triple H, without a doubt. First off, documentary should only be made after your career is over. Or at least your in-ring career is over. So Triple H. Triple H, without a doubt. First person that came to mind. I think first off, this would be something that would be interesting. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. So, 100% Triple H. The formation of who Hunter Hearst Helmsley was. You can discuss the curtain call, is that what it's called, in 96? That basically got him blackballed by Vince, where he had to re-earn his place. Marrying Stephanie, entering the McMahon family, Reign of Terror. I mean, you can run like a 10-episode documentary on Triple H through Hunter Hearst Helmsley, DX, Reign of Terror, and Evolution. Even Monday Night War, have like a Monday Night Wars episode within DX. You can discuss a lot of things. Talk about NXT, creating NXT and running NXT, and then have like a final episode of, who he is now, and what he plans for, as his creative side, as head of creative, and where the company's headed, right? I think Triple H would be the best answer. B-Master then comes in at the last minute with a really good question. Who does the credit go to when an NFL team wins the Super Bowl? I don't think it's a who. I think it literally has to go to the entire organization, right? And this is what Super Bowl winning teams seem to be centered around. There's a reason why teams that are focused through one player, the Bills, never make the Super Bowl. The front office does not, this is be honest, right? Like I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, the Bills claimed Darius Slay off of waivers this week, right? This shows you how crazy their front office is, right? They claimed Darius Slay off of waivers. In doing so, they put to clear roster spot. They waived one of their corners. Well, he got claimed. Darius Slay then says, "Well, I don't want to play for you. I might retire. I'm not coming." So the Bills lose a corner in this. This is just bad GM work, bad front office work, right? So it starts there. Why is Philly such a dominant team at times, right? It starts in the front office. It literally starts with your ownership, right? This is why the Cowboys, Jerry Jones is always the person that I blame, because it starts with your owners. It's why I blame with the Jaguars' lack of success. I blame the Khans. Like, the Khans bought the team and did nothing with it. It starts with your ownership group, right? And being able to make those decisions to hire a GM that knows what he's doing, right? So if you look at, the Patriots team. The Patriots historically have been one of the worst franchises before the 2000s. One of the worst franchises, right? Rob Kraft buys the team and immediately overnight changes it into a success. 6 Super Bowls, right? Why? Because of the owner. And he brought in Bill Belichick, who had a strict culture. And up until like the last 5 years, knew how to run a team. But it also helped that you have, right? It does help to have great coaching. It does help to have great players. But that all starts at the front office, right? Howie Roseman's the best GM in football. With how he manipulates contracts, how he brings in trades, and somehow always comes out on the winning end of these trades, right? Best GM in football. And so I think it has very little to do with your players. I think it has a little bit more to do, but still very little to do with your coaches. I think Super Bowl winning teams are won in the front office. Super Bowls are won behind the scenes. They're won with your GM. They're won through your ownership. Which is why, so Jim Irsay was really, from what I understand, was not the best owner. Just really didn't care the last few years, right? He croaks, rest in peace, nothing bad to say about him. He croaks. His daughter takes over. His daughter is on the sideline with a headset on, taking notes, trying to figure out did the wide receiver run the wrong route, or was it called wrong by the play caller? Right? Now, I would say it's a little bit micromanagey. I would hate to work for her. But it seems to work. We'll see long term if it works. But it seems like she's hands-on. And it seems to work. I don't know. I think Super Bowls are won in the front office. That's why the Browns will never get there. That's why the Browns will never get there. Their front office sucks. That's why the Bengals will never get back. Their front office sucks. How do you lose Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart, who don't want to play for you anymore, after you sign them to contracts or in extensions? Shamar Stewart's a rookie. But in that whole drama, I think that's more of a Shamar Stewart thing. But Trey Henderson signed an extension and then quit on you halfway. That's a front office problem. That's why the Raiders will never get there. Right? Tom Brady's now part of it. And from what I understand, he's not happy. From some of the things that I said, that he's not happy with how the team is playing. And I think with Tom Brady being there, he has a standard of excellence. The Raiders might be a threat in the future. Right? But it's why teams like the Patriots, it's why teams like the Eagles, it's why teams like the Chiefs get there. They have a front office, right, that is competent. Now, it does help to have great coaching. But let's just be honest. Can we be honest for a minute? Philly doesn't have great coaching. We see that this year. Sirianni's not a good coach. Sirianni's a game manager at best. He's a culture guy, which is great to have if you have great coordinators who can coach. The Super Bowl winning years for Philly, they had very good coordinators. Last year you had Kellen Moore, and I forgot who the D coordinator was. But they all left, right? The year you beat the Patriots, you had, Steichen and what was his name? It doesn't matter. Frank Reich. Right? You had great coordinators. Right? Sirianni's not a good coach. He's a culture guy. But what won Philly the Super Bowl those years? Howie Roseman. Working trades and working contracts to get people and talent on the roster. It's Howie Roseman. He won them the Super Bowl. He's their MVP. He drafts well. He does great with contracts. And he trades well. That's why Philly's a dominant football team right now. He's a culture guy. The Chiefs are a little bit different. They got a great front office, but they also have a great coach in Andy Reid, and you got talent with Mahomes and Kelsey. But even with all of that this year, they're not going to make the playoffs. Mostly because I don't think they've done a great job protecting Mahomes. The front. I don't really know who runs the Chiefs. I don't know if I want to continue to say they're a great front office. But historically, what I've seen, like with the Patriots, right? What is the reason the Patriots are good this year? It's the front office. They made the call when they probably wouldn't have. Robert Kraft, the owner, made the call. Bill, you got to go. Hey, Gerard, this is a bad year. We didn't bring you in to go 4-13, Gerard Mayo. You're gone. We're bringing in Mike Vrabel. Why? Because guys, Vrabel's not a good coach in terms of like X's and O's. What Vrabel is good at is culture. It's culture. And culture starts at the top, and it works its way down. Right? It's culture. What wins Super Bowls? Culture. Philly has a great culture. They have an identity. They don't have great coaching. The Patriots don't have the best coaches in the NFL. They don't. Mike Vrabel is a culture guy. Our D coordinator is currently out with cancer, so I'm not going to say he's bad. I think his name's, we call him T. I don't know his first name. But he's a good coach, but he's not great. And the guy calling plays right now is our linebackers coach. First year in the position, first year in the NFL calling plays as a D coordinator. Bro might get some jobs next year. That's how good this defense is. I hope he doesn't leave. Like, Vrabel's not a, right? Our offensive coordinator is Josh McDaniels, right? Why is he the offensive coordinator? Because he's an experienced offensive coordinator who could run the offense. And that's what Vrabel's not good at. Right? Vrabel's a culture guy. Dan Campbell with the Lions, he's a culture guy. Culture is what wins championships. Now, it doesn't help to have talent, but culture, I think culture overtakes talent any day of the week. I think it starts with the ownership. It goes to who's making football decisions. And then it ultimately goes down to, is there culture in the locker room? I think those are the three things. If you have those three things, you're probably going to be a good football team. That's just my take on it. But with that said, this has been another episode of the Slapping Meat Community Show. If you guys want to post questions, join the Discord. You can post the questions in there. All conversation about it. You can comment, like, share, subscribe. Join the Discord. Talk about the episode. Thank you all for listening. And until the next one, I will see you guys on Monday. Nah, I don't know. I might watch that Nickelodeon game. We'll see. Be Monday or Tuesday. We'll figure it out. Probably Monday. But have a great one.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride, whether it's NXT or NFL time. Going in the ropes and fourth and deep, slapping meat community every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, every Tuesday.